All right, so a lot of people on the MMA community are pretty much calling Chris Curtis one of the sorest losers in the world. Obviously, these aren't my words. This is just one of the posts that I read online. But I've been seeing a whole lot of posts similar like this. You know, there's a lot of people out there that really seem to believe that Chris Curtis just reacted the wrong way last night whenever, of course, we saw Roman Kopylov try to show some respect to him. Let's go ahead and react to this clip, and then I'm going to go ahead and give my personal thoughts about this entire situation. As you guys can see here, this fight just ended. Roman Kopylov goes over and tries to show some respect to Chris Curtis. Obviously, Chris Curtis isn't having it. He's not having it. You know, he seems to be really upset. And Roman Kopylov's like, what the fuck? Kind of confused by the reaction. But I think that the reaction is kind of fair. You know, the way that the fight ended was a little bit suspect. Mark Smith went over and ended the fight literally with a second left. Of course, we see Chris Curtis not completely out of there. You know, he still has one knee on the canvas. You know, I think that Mark Smith would have done a good job at stopping the fight if Roman Kopylov would have gone over and tried to follow up with some punches, really trying to end Chris Curtis, but that wasn't the case at all. And then we go ahead and see, you know, what Chris Curtis had to say, you know, right after the fight, and right after Mark Smith pretty much called out the fight with a TKO loss.
I was fine. I got stunned.
Obviously, Chris Curtis here is very upset.
I've been dropped the first time in my career, you call it? I was fine, man. What you every time I fight, man.
So obviously Chris Curtis was a little upset here. He was actually very upset, and rightfully so. You know, I think that getting a TKO loss in your career whenever you don't deserve it is pretty bad. And I think that Chris Curtis right now doesn't have the best record in his UFC career, if I'm just being completely honest. And I feel like maybe he is maybe a loss or two away from getting cut from the UFC. But this isn't the first time that we've seen Chris Curtis, you know, react like this in a very unprofessional manner and just have a whole lot of emotion in the octagon. Of course, whenever he fought Jack Hermanson, he had a lot to say. He had a lot to say on Twitter specifically, as you guys can read here by some of the comments that he wrote. We know that Chris Curtis is a guy that goes back and forth with fighters, and he goes back and forth with the fans like all the time. That's why he deactivated his Twitter, because this guy was just completely freaking unhinged. As you guys can see here, whenever the fight ended with the Jack Hermanson fight, he was just flicking everybody off, you know. And then whenever he was exiting the octagon, yeah, whenever he left the octagon, he was just flicking off the entire octagon. He was flicking off, you know, Jack Hermanson. And of course, we know that literally right after that, he activated his Twitter for a while, but then came back and of course does what Chris Curtis does. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I honestly do believe that he has a right to be upset, because I do think that you know, the stoppage was pretty bad. I think the stoppage was pretty bad. With a second to go, in my honest opinion, I think that Mark Smith should have just let it go. I think that, like I said, if Roman Kopylov was gonna come in and try to follow up with some strikes, that would have been a completely different argument, and that would have been a completely different situation. But that's just not what happened. You know, that's just not what happened. Chris Curtis, he went down with a, you know, from a very powerful strike, but he was still in the knee. It's not like he just freaking flat out went out cold. You know, he was stunned. You know, like he said, he was stunned. You know, it did hurt him, but he wasn't down and out. And, you know, even here in this very split second partial of the clip, you guys can see that he is still in one knee, you know, trying to make an effort to get back up. So I think that this wasn't the best stoppage, but in Mark Smith's defense, at the same time, Mark Smith is the referee. Maybe he saw something that the fans are never going to see, and from his perspective, things are just always going to be a lot different. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you guys think that Chris Curtis is just a crybaby bitch, or does he have a reason to be upset? I think personally, as much as people like to call Chris Curtis a crybaby and a sore loser, I think that there is some evidence of that in the past, but in this situation, I just don't think that's the case, if I'm being honest. I think that he does have a right to be upset at this one specifically, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments. As always, it's a pleasure. Peace out and have a good one.